Okay, a warm welcome to everybody today. Thank you for joining us for the 1,000 Farms webinar series. Let me just share my screen. And today we are on number 23 of our series. My name is Rachel Chase with the Alliance of Bioversity and CIAT. And I'm hosting the webinars for 1,000 Farms project, which I hope many of you have been attending. Today, we're very happy to have Fanny, Howland, and Katherine Quintero, who are from the Alliance of Bioversity and CIAT in the Performance, Innovation, and Strategic Analysis for Impact Department, and they're based in Colombia. And Fanny is focusing on gender policy analysis, discourse, perception analysis of climate change. Katherine is an economist with experience in design, data collection, and analysis of evaluation studies. And together they will share with us today their evaluation of the 1,000 Farms project in scaling the use of the Tricot approach for breeding decisions, featuring experiences and lessons learned by Tricot users in 4 countries.
Yes, thank you very much, Rachel, for the presentation and the invitation to present our work. So just one second. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
I can see it. Perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, so good morning and good afternoon, everybody. So today's presentation is titled 1,000 Farms Scaling the Use of Tricot Data for Breeding Decision and Outcome Studies. So this is a research team that participated in this study. And the presentation will be divided into 5 parts. First, an introduction, motivation, and research question. Then we will present the method and data production strategy. Then the result and lesson learned, and finally some conclusions element. So to begin with the introduction, motivation, and research question. So 1,000 Farms project and approach promote to national agricultural research and extension systems and CGR breeding networks the implementation of Tricot approach, supported by the Climate online platform to produce performance data and farmer feedback, and in order to inform breeding and seed system decision. 1,000 Farm is also a platform to promote existing digital tools and approaches through knowledge sharing, training resources, community of practice, and catalytic grants. The project is based on the crowdsourcing approach and aiming to upscale participatory crop improvement and collaborative arrangement. It's also important to note that the project is embedded in partnership with CGR centers and programs. So 1,000 Farm project is formulated and implemented in a context of limited adoption of improved varieties and limited use of participatory methods. So the objective of involving farmers is the efficiency and effectiveness of plant breeding, to achieve the efficiency and effectiveness of plant breeding, to understand the priorities and perception to foster adoption, and it is also part of variety release requirement. So in this context, triadic comparisons of technologies, Tricot, is presented as a citizen science approach and method to crowdsourcing. It involves the distribution of 3 technologies to individual farmers and the use of small plot size in many locations. The approach is supported by Climate, an online platform that supports the trial design to data analysis. It has also a wide scaling potential due to its facility of distribution of trial packages and the execution of training sessions, and for its cost efficiency. the approach is also presented as fostering interdisciplinary collaborations. So in this context, our research questions was, to what extent have the 1,000 farm activity and output contributed to system-level changes in relation to scaling the use of Tricot data for breeding decision in the country where the project is being implemented, in this case, Ethiopia, Ghana, and Uganda, and in one case of a non-directly targeted country, Haiti. And so the second question was, what lessons can be learned from the use of the Tricot approach and in relation to collaborative arrangement? What are the opportunities and challenges for the use of Tricot approach? So this study has been implemented between July 2025 and January 2026. So some elements regarding the method. So we use a theory-based evaluation, which is an approach to understand whether intended outcomes have been achieved and the importance of an intervention contribution compared with that of an alternative. So we use, in particular, contribution analysis, which is part of the theory-based evaluation, which is really relevant when attribution or experimental design is not possible, and when an intervention such as 1,000 farms occurs in a complex context where several organizations are operating and projects and programs implemented. So contribution analysis allows to rank the influence of causal mechanisms at play and identify contextual factors that facilitate or limit change to occur. So to implement this method, we established several steps. First, we formulate the 1,000 farm theory of change. Then we gather evidence on the 1,000 farm project performance story, which corresponds to the primary causal mechanism. Then we identify potential rival theories, alternative causal mechanism. And then we analyze these causal mechanisms through the contribution analysis framework. So this allows us to provide an assessment or judgment of the 1,000 farm performance story against the objective and outcome thoughts. So for the data production strategy, we use triangulation of source to corroborate evidence. So we implement an online survey. We also conducted some semi-structured interviews, and we also gather some secondary data. So I will start with sharing some results. So first, through an iterative process with 1,000 farms teams member, we made explicit the project theory of change, focusing on two aspects: the use of Tricot data and the creation or strengthening of collaborative arrangement for the implementation of Tricot approach. So you can see the first line about Tricot data. We can understand that through the standardization of Tricot reports, the strengthening of the climate platform, and project socialization, it was expected that NARS and CGR breeding manager will access timely Tricot data report, recognize the value of Tricot data, and then incorporate Tricot in breeding cycle, integrate OFT standard into management guidelines, and at the end, achieve more investment in Tricot and the use of breeding vector commendation to release new varieties and plant seed distribution. In the same way, for the collaborative arrangement lines, we can see that through courses, collaborative support, pilots, and grants, it was expected that NARS and CGR will engage in cross-organizational collaboration and understand the value of this new collaborative arrangement, and again devote own budget to reproduce this kind of collaborative arrangement. So this is the theory of change, which means the expected result was of the project. So in terms of the global survey the global online survey that we conducted, we can see that the webinar, this webinar is the most widespread activity. We can see that 66% of the respondents have participated and participate in this activity. 42% of the respondents have participated both in training and webinars. Ghana is showing the highest level of engagement in webinar, and Uganda leads in training participation. Another interesting result regarding the global survey is the attitude and use of Tricot approach and the Climate platform. So we first saw that there is a positive trust toward data. 64% trust Tricot data more than other OFT methods. And they also reported technical knowledge on Tricot. 36% have good and very good, and 41 very good technical knowledge on Tricot data and approach. There is also a high adoption among the respondents of the Climate platform and use of Tricot data for breeding decision. There is also institutionalization underway, since 42% of the respondents have integrated Tricot-inspired protocol into official breeding guideline, and some others that are in consideration. So now I will pass the floor to Katherine, that will present the result regarding the contribution analysis.
Okay, thank you so much, Fanny. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night for everyone. Now, as Fanny mentioned, I will present the result of the contribution analysis of the 1,000 Farms project. To begin, it's important to understand the context in which these changes are taking place. I will briefly present the main contextual elements identified from interviews across the 4 countries. And for example, in Ethiopia, agricultural research has a long tradition, but farmer participation had historically been more passive. While Tricot was introduced early, challenge related to seed access and multiplication still limit wider adoption. In Haiti, breeding is mainly led by universities, often with support from international actors. The seed system is relatively weak, although participatory approaches are beginning to emerge. In Ghana, for example, there is a mix of institutions working on climate resilient crops. Participatory breeding has been supported through CGR projects, but political and institutional barriers still affect a scaling process. And in Uganda, research is coordinated by NARO through zonal institutes and formal variety release systems. Participatory trials are growing, but are often seen as costly and labor intensive. So overall, this context shows that scaling Tricot is not happening in vacuum, but within systems that present both opportunities and structural constraints. Despite go the next slide, Fanny, please. Despite this contextual difference, a key finding is that there is a consistently positive attitude toward the Tricot approach. This is mainly explained by 4 factors, as you can see it in the table in the slide. First, Tricot enables real engagement with farmers. It involves more farmers and allows them to interact directly with crops under real conditions. Second, it generates high quality data. Respond of the interview that we realized with Fanny and the other member of the teams emphasize its richness, relevance, and usefulness for decision making. Theory is relatively simple to implement. Farmers only manage a few plots, which makes participation feasible at scale. And for the data is highly valuable, not only for research, but also for formal processes like variety release and for comparison across regions and gender groups. Additionally, the climate platform plays a key enabling role by facilitation trial designs, data collection, and reporting. Overall, these elements explain why Tricot is not only technically sound, but also socially and operationally well assessed. The next slide, Fanny, please. This brings us of the impact trajectory. Our analysis showed different levels of progress across the 4 countries. In Ethiopia, for example, the trajectory is confirmed, meaning that there is a clear evidence of sustained progress over time. However, the specific contribution of 1,000 FAR is considered weak, mainly because other long-term projects have also played a major role in this process. In contrast, Ghana, Uganda, and Haiti, the trajectory is initiated. This means that change has started and some outcomes are visible, but the process is still ongoing. When looking at contribution, we see that Ghana and Uganda is commingled, meaning that 1,000 FARs contributes alongside with other initiatives. In Haiti and Ethiopia, the contribution appears weaker due to the strong presence of the other actors. The key takeaway here is the impact is highly collaborative. Is not driven by a single project, but the interaction of multiple initiatives over time. The next, thank you, Fanny. To understand this, we identify several key mechanisms of change. First, capacity building has been fundamental. Trainees and webinars have a strength skill, knowledge, and confidence amongst different actors. Second, socialization and communication have helped expand awareness and building a community of practice. And third is integrate Tricot data into breeding process has improved decision making, making it more aligned with farmer preference. And for the climate platform has enabled this process by standardizing and trial design and improve data quality and scalability. Finally, multi-actor collaboration has brought together farmers, breeders, researchers, and other stakeholders, strengthening partnerships. Synergy with other projects and funding sources have amplified the impact of the project. Then together, these mechanisms show that the change is not only technical, it's also institutional and relational. As a result of this mechanism, several important outcomes have been achieved. First, Tricot data is increasingly being integrated into breeding decision, including stage gate processes and variety relays. And second, there is a progress toward institutionalizing the approach, with some organizations incorporated into formal protocols. Third is training the scientific basis of decision making by incorporating farmer generate data from real conditions. And finally is expanded collaboration among breeders, farmers, researchers, and system actors. I will close with key lessons first about Tricot approach and climate platform. First, the Tricot approach is broadly recognized and valued as an effective on-farm testing methodology across contexts. Is seen a robust way to generate relevant farmer-centered data. Second, the 1,000 FAR project has played a key enabling role, particularly in supporting areas to adopt the approach. This has contributed to building institutional confidence as well as training technical skills. However, it's important, there is an important lesson is that not all stakeholders are fully convinced yet. Some breeders still express skepticism, in particular regarding the quality and reliability of the data. This highlights the need for continuing engagement at evidence building. Another critical factor is leadership and resource. The decision of breeding program directors, along with the availability of dedicated funding, are essential for scaling and sustaining the approach. Finally, there is a clear need to further strengthen the climate platform. And why is it highly valued? Improving its usability and functionality will be key to support and broader adoption. Lesson one is about collaborative arrangement. And one of the most important findings is that Tricot actively strengthens collaboration. In fact, 82% of the respondents report that is helped by or reinforced partnerships. However, effective collaboration requires intentional effort with field agents. This means having clear incentives, formal agreements, continuous communication, and strong training. With farmers, it requires building trust through feedback on results, transparency about breeding timelines, and fair compensation. And importantly, this system naturally present a key opportunity to further strengthen and scale the approach. Overall, this shows the collaboration in not just a byproduct of Tricot, is the core of how it works. Fanny, go ahead with the conclusion.
Thank you, Katherine. So yeah, just to give some final conclusion. So 1,000 farms effectively achieved to increase awareness, attitude, and knowledge of the Tricot approach and climate platform. There is a current use of the Tricot approach and the climate platform by NARS, university, and CGR breeders. We observe some scientific skills that have been strengthened and the production of scientific knowledge through papers, for instance. We also observe weak seed systems that can constitute a challenge for the use of Tricot-based recommendation. And new or strengthened collaborative arrangements are fostered, but as was mentioning Katherine, are facing some challenges related to budget limitation. So in conclusion, we still observe some gaps between scientific publication narrative and NARS experience that need to be bridged. And it's also important to further involve national actors in data analysis and further training and continue trainings to take advantage of the current Tricot momentum. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Fanny and Katherine, for that very informative and interesting overview of your study. I think that we can see and be happy about the contribution of 1,000 Farms and Tricot so far, but also it reinforces some of the limitations that the team is aware of and has been working on. But yeah, that's a really great piece of work you've done. So thank you very much. I'd like to open the floor to any questions for either of our presenters or comments that people might have. I think we have one in the chat. Yes. From Charles. Why are breeders still skeptical about the quality of Tricot data? Who would like to answer that?
Okay, I can start. I think breeding have been done in a certain way for a long time through control trial in station. And speaking of resistance to change, I think there is still some some resistance to to approach a breeding cycle in a new way that involve more farmer, where they are less in control of the trials. And yeah, so I think this is one of the reasons why some breeders are still skeptical. So yeah, and this is one of the recommendation or one of the results that we found, that awareness has to be done not only with farmer, not only with field agent, but also with breeder to understand the value of this new way of doing things. And it takes some time. Yeah, can take some time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Next question, anyone? Jeff, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw in. Yeah, just by good luck, I guess, I just returned from Malawi and Zambia and had a chance to actually look at 1,000 Farms trials being executed by the national programs for soybean. And I think what it told me was we still have some work to do on the SOP, communicating the SOPs more clearly, because what I was seeing is the national partners were still treating the tricots as demos. And I think it's hard for an organization like an extension service to transition from what they normally do in their everyday job, which is often demos, to a research more program, a breeding related program. So I'm sure they were trained and they understood when they were taking the course that, you know, what the Tricot represented, but they would go back to their principles that they use in their everyday jobs to demo, create more like a demo environment. So for example, almost every one of the Tricots was right along the road, not in an actual field. It was often adjacent to a field, and it was most of them were way over weeded and way over managed. And so, you know, I guess it begged the question. So I guess what I'm saying is that the reality sometimes doesn't meet what you think is going to happen. You know, you think you've clearly laid out the SOPs and you've done everything right and you've trained. And then when you go back and see actually what was on the ground, it was like, oh no, you know, everything isn't as we hoped. You know, they were using fertilizer sometimes and not following farmer practice. So it was a little discouraging that, you know, and so I think maybe what it means is that the training efforts have to maybe be kind of doubled down on in a lot of cases, depending on who the partners executing are. They thought they were doing the right thing, but they obviously hadn't really understood what the Tricot was about. So anyway, that was just a very fresh impression just getting back yesterday. So yeah, thank you.
That's great. We appreciate that. Thanks for that insight. Fanny or Katherine, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jeff. Training has to be continuous, communication has to be continuous. It's just not one session and that's it. I think in Ethiopia, one trader was telling us that the fact to collaborate again on a new Tricot trials makes that on the way field agents are more and more trained, and so it's a journey and you have to accept
it's
that.
A journey.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got another thank you, Jeff. I've got another question in the chat, and then after that we'll go to Stephen. So in the chat, oh wait, I missed. Okay, let me just ask Henry's question. What is the recommended number of farmers for a tricot? Might this be a bit expensive for the NARS partners?
So I don't have the answer of this question. But there is definitely a perception of the cost of involving several farmers, much more than in PVS, for instance. But I don't have the answer.
Yeah, Henry, we can get back to you on this. Actually, it depends on how many options that you want to test in your trial. Stephen, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Fanny and team. I think I would begin with Henry's question. Probably most of the question would be how many replications you want per technology or per variety. That's where the numbers come from. But also, I've been doing a lot of extensive work on the costing. I think the thinking that it is very expensive, I think it's a fallacy. It's only when you are not doing on-farm testing using Tricot, right, is when it becomes expensive. But ideally, we have numbers of cost per farmer that demonstrates that if you do it right as prescribed, then you would be able to achieve the right data quality at a lesser cost. Yeah, to my query would be the trust in Tricot data. I always find it fascinating when countries where on-farm testing is not a requirement for variety release, there's a little more trust in the data than countries where it is required for the release. Like, for example, 90% in Ethiopia, where even on-farm testing, it's done, but it's not a prerequisite for variety release. If this would be disaggregated and the reasons for trust, because the data has to be used for decision making. And if there's trust and the data is not being used for decision making, it raises a bit of some queries on where the value of on-farm testing is supposed to be. So I'm not sure if Fanny and the team were able to separate where trust in the data is high and the use of the data for variety release and variety placements, whether there are differences in that too.
It's a very good point. No, we didn't make this analysis, but yeah, I think there is definitely a key role of the requirement of data, farmers' data for variety release. It plays a key role in the use of and the adoption and the value of Tricot approach. But yeah, we didn't make this analysis, but it would be very interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think another thing is to do with the quality of data that the breeding programs still don't trust the quality of data. I think we may need to be careful in treating how they perceive quality of data. Most of the complaints I've ever seen is about appreciation of the type of data. Because most breeding programs have been implementing on-farm testing in their own way. Others are doing scoring, others are doing qualitative work. So there was no standard approach. And now shifting to one common standard, probably which communicates a lot of evidences generated on-farm to ranking has been a problem. And that's why you find most people refer to ranking to as a qualitative kind of data, which I find fascinating from the basic statistics. So most of the complaints are actually related to the type of data. It might not be about the quality of the data, because you receive the data the way it is, probably you see even 80% of the responses that are expected, which means probably the problem is somewhere mostly to do with the type of data. So if we differ like the two, whether it's quality of data or it is appreciation of the kind of data, then we should be able to reach on how to address the problem.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Any other questions?
Maybe a comment.
Yes, go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Thanks. Now, regarding on the type of data, I think also we at times need to really define what would be the objective of the trial. So if it is, for example, release data related, I attended 2-3 monitoring missions for Tricot. I work with finger millet, and finger millet being a truly staple crop, people are very particular with the qualitative traits, the color, the grain size, the shape, and all that. And it makes more sense to collect that type of data, because that's the data you present to NAM, because if you are presenting for release, you then have data from the on station. I'm talking you being a breeder. You would have the data from the on station, which at times people will question whether that is what they want, the farmers want, because of farmer preferences. Then you go now for Tricot to actually collect the qualitative data, which would be more the farmer preferences. So in that case, then you will have to go with mainly the quality data and get a way of analyzing it with a little bit of quantitative data, maybe a little yield here and there. The other aspect also is, which might be an issue, is that with the Tricot, because the numbers are very small per farmer and there are many, so there could be a lot of varied responses to quantitative data, like if it's yield or something. At times you will find people getting issues with analyzing that data. So maybe that's another thing we need to look at. If we have 200 farmers, but of the 200, maybe it's like maybe 60 have one common variety across, but the performance of that variety is so varied because we are going through a vast number of, a very varied array of farmers in terms of their management practices, their environment and the rest of it. So at times it needs really a qualified statistician to analyze, to use a specific method. So it's not a question, it's just an observation. I think maybe these are some of the things which might need to be looked at if we need really to get very good data from Tricot, especially taking in view that there's a lot involved. There's a lot of monitoring and the rest of it. So we need to get real quality data. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. I can say that the statistical methods do exist to use that data in the right way. And some of the people on the call here today have been behind developing those methods. But it's just a matter of communicating and training and making sure that people know how to do those. So we have a lot of resources. I'll talk about that in a second at the end of the webinar. But let's go back to the outcome study that's been presented today. Charles, do you have a question about that? Go ahead.
About the empty spaces. I have a question related to the Tricot implementation. During our previous study we did in Rwanda, the farmer complained that the Tricot they are installed in a small size of the plot. So they want to know if there will be an amendment for future so that they could have like a big size of the plot so that they can be able to know the best variety to be selected. Sometimes the soil fertility is an issue for them, so that if the plot are installed in a small size of the plot, it will be difficult for them to assess the difference between the trials. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that there are pros and cons to the small size of the plot. I don't know if Fanny or Katherine want to answer that, or if somebody else wants to chime in from the team.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit no, it's not part of my knowledge or expertise, so I'm not able to answer it. But what I can say is that and it came out of the study that there are still some question about the process of implementing Tricot, about the trial. So yeah, it reinforced the idea of the need for more training, more communication on the process of implementing a Tricot approach. Yeah.
Stephen, do you have something to add on that?
Yeah, I think this is not only the Rwanda case, even several other countries and several crops. This has been noted, but often I think always when we receive something, we always need to ask why and why and why. I realize most of the complaints about the expectation of keeping the seeds for later production. It is not about the evaluation. So we need to be a bit careful in when we receive a farmer explaining that the plot is small. vis-a-vis also management cost and ability to maintain this trial until the end. Most times, I think people are looking at, especially if you look at the RTVs, people are looking at keeping the planting material for next multiplication. So the trial size is something that you can always discuss. It might increase, but it doesn't increase to a production field. So it's still it's a trial, it's an evaluation, and we have, these are lines that have gone through performance trials, and we believe they're already fixed lines and they should be able to perform. So what we are asking is, it's about the question that we're asking at on-farm testing level. So when we talk about trial size, we should also think about the management cost, ability to maintain and get the right data at the end.
Thank you. I have a message a question in the chat from Juan Manuel about this study. Could you expand on your findings about the role of field agents, more specifically about their role in data gathering quality?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Juan Manuel. So in the theory of change of Tricot project, 1000 farm project, sorry, the idea is a field agent can or cannot be playing a role. Also, what we heard, what have been shared with us, were two options. Or this is a farmer that is expected to collect the data with some more or less direct support of a field agent, or this is a field agent who is supposed to collect data for the farmers. So in the second case, so it plays a key role in accompanying the farmer in the implementation of the trial, and also in collecting the data, or in supporting farmer in collecting the data. So it plays a key role, but what we learn is that sometimes field agents are not directly paid or compensated for this particular work, because they are part of the National Extension Services, or because they are involved in NGO in other projects. So their focus or their dedication to data collection can be less important comparing to their other role that they are paying to do. No? So it can influence the quality of data, because sometimes in some cases they just left. So one field agent has to collect many data from many farmers, or they are not collecting at the right time. So and it was part of our lessons, no? Important to have formal contractation or formal contact, with field agents, so that it can be really dedicated and accountable for their work, and also recognize some contextual issue like internet difficulties in the field, language, also resources to go to the field and to visit several farmers. So they are playing a really key role, but they need to be supported in the right way so that they can effectively collect quality data.
Okay, thank you for that clear answer. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the seed system limitation that came up several times in the different countries. Can you say a bit more about that? Like, what specifically are people saying is the bottleneck there? Is it not having enough seed for the Tricot trials? Does it have something to do more with variety release? What did people tell you?
So the seed issue was happening at two stages. One in the first case that you were mentioning, before the implementation of the trial, so to multiplicate seeds so that you can distribute to the farmer to implement the trial. So that was one issue that had been reported to us. And also the other part of the issue was at the end. So to implement Tricot recommendation in terms of what seeds reproduce in what region. The seed system sometimes is not strong enough to apply and implement the recommendation. So you know what you have to do, where the seed needs to go and for what region and for what, but you don't have the means to effectively implement that recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I see there's another couple of questions from Siraj in the chat, but they look quite technical to me, more about methodology of the Tricot approach. And I think Jakob has answered those in the chat. So if you want to have a look at that, you can. Does anybody else have a question or comment related to the outcome study that they'd like to share? Jakob, go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just to thank Fanny and the team for this study. It's really nice to see an independent study. So we didn't influence the results in the sense that we didn't. Fanny wrote the report as she wanted. We just gave some more background information about Tricot, of course, and we helped to design it. But it's all the work of the teams, and it's really great to see. Like an independent study of the impact with very honest results and also the limitations. And I think those limitations they're real. And so some more work is needed on both what Jeff mentioned in terms of really the full chain of training. I think we need to continue training people. There's still a lot of it's very difficult. You need to learn something and unlearn something when you start with Tricot. And the unlearning is sometimes as difficult as the new learning. Also, continued improvement of the Climo platform. We're not done yet. There's a long list of features. And continue working on this kind of overall change. So I think it's really nice that to have this study and also of a long process. The first version of the report, I was like, oh, it almost shows us like we didn't make a contribution as a project. But actually, I think that's positive in the sense that it's been a process that is really like not just the project has been changing things, but also a lot of people around the CGIAR breeding programs and in the NARES themselves have been pushing the approach. So it's really like it almost shows that it's a movement. That has many actors, not just the project itself, not only people who got project staff or even paid partners, but a lot of things happened in a very collaborative way where people used other types of funding and so on. So I think that really shows the power of the breeding programs and the breeding networks to kind of push these changes. I just think that we need to push these changes further, right? You need quite a few seasons to actually make this a routine. It's not a short-term process, but like it's super promising. What I see from the study, it's really to me it's very very positive and but also honest. So about what still needs to be done. So yeah, I'm very happy with the study. And thank you, Fanny and team.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Thank you for this opportunity to do this work. It has been very interesting for us. And I think about the contribution of 1,000 farms. I think it is at the heart of Tricot approach, no? To be collaborative, to build on the other efforts. So for me, it's showing that you are in the right way because you are building on so many efforts for so many years. So yeah, for me, it's a very positive result as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Jakob, for your comments. I think we'll probably close it on that positive note, unless there are any other burning questions. And I wanted to thank Fanny and Katherine very much for agreeing to present today and sharing the study with us. And just as a final bit of information for you, I'll just remind you that we have all of the information for the Thousand Farms platform on thousandfarms.net, and we also have a community website, community.thousandfarms.net, where you can interact with other members working in Tricot, share your experiences, ask questions, and watch the webinars that have already taken place. And that's where this one will be as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today again, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thanks again, Fanny and Katherine and everybody for joining us today.